and welcome to another episode of the Nerds4Life SuperCoach podcast. You're listening to, Nerds4Life SuperCoach. I'm your host, Peter, and thanks again for listening to another episode while I talk about my amazing team and the disappointments that come with every week. This year, it's a tough year, but it is what it is, and we move forward. Now, before I do start off with the show, because we've got a lot to talk about. We have a lot of injury news. I want to mention our group winner. I also want to talk about some rookies options that we're using to finalize our trade downs and some primo/PODs to look at as well. But before I get into that, please make sure to subscribe if you're listening to this on Spotify or YouTube. Or also make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and where else am I on? I'm on, what's that thing now called? I don't know why I haven't been on this, and I have forgotten that this even exists, and I've only just started posting on Threads. I'm on Threads now too, so make sure to follow us on there. That's Nerds4Life, the number 4, SuperCoach, or Nerds4Life SC. I'm on all of those platforms, so do check us out. Now, I just want to say congratulations to our group winner. Mo's Finest is his team's name. Josh, another Josh. I swear a Josh wins our weekly every week. There are so many Joshes. Look at that. In the top, you got Josh, Justin, that's pretty close. You got a Joshua. Who else is here? I swear, it's this, another Josh. I know this Josh, actually, funnily enough, Swallow Wines. A few Joshes. Tate. You know, this guy's had a really good season. Overall ranking 387th. He's had an amazing year. But, you know, Mo's Finest, I'll just look at his team. I'm going to start to do this every week. I'm pretty new at this whole podcast thing. It's like this SuperCoach podcast thing. This is the first year that I'm doing it. Sorry, my throat is super croaky today. Sorry about that. It is a live podcast. So this is Josh's team. I'm going to go through it bit by bit with the group winner, just real quick. He had Bontempelli's vice-captain score. Smart man. He had, the usuals in Dacos, Sheasel, Ryan in the back line. Had a decent score from the next 3. Dale, Powell, Stewart all scored below that. What do you have? He had Walsh. Walsh, that's a good pick. Tom Green. Oh, Cherry. A Cherry owner. That's great. Flanders. He had Moore in the forward line and Rankin as well. He's got a decent team. He's got Toby Green as the F9 loop, which is interesting. Not many teams out there with Toby Green, but it is working. He's got a much better forward line than I do, so I cannot complain. No, great work. Let's see how the rest of your season goes. Hopefully, your overall rank is now 10,000th, which is not bad. So good luck to the rest of the year. So, before we go into the injury list, I just want to first mention my team. My team has had an absolute shocking round. This is a really funny story. So I was at a wedding, and I started to have some drinks, started to have a chat with my friends. It was great. Everything was going awesome. And then at 4:30, someone asks me what the time is. It was I'm pretty sure it was 4:30. Someone asked me for the time, and I checked the time, and I swear it was 4:30. I checked the time, and the reason this is so annoying is because it was at 4:30. It was 4:35. That's right. So I checked the time. I go in because Bontempelli has scored 156. 157. Awesome. I've got him. I've got the VC on him. This is great. It's 4:35 when I see that. Which means I couldn't take the C off Dacos and put Livingston as C. Incredibly frustrating, because I had to then proceed with Dacos as my captain, as I had just missed the cut-off to loop. And I had to take Dacos as captain and miss out on Bont's BC score of 157. And that cost me about 80-something points, which is very frustrating. Very frustrating. But it also meant that I missed the Joe Richards sub news, and I had to go with a 36 on my field as well, instead of Kruger's 64. So in total, I missed about 110, 115 points that I should have had because I just wasn't paying attention to my phone whilst, life. Anyway, that was fun. That was great. And it didn't help that, Sarong, Rao, Merritt, Martin, Ridley, who's been a great recruit for the last 2 weeks, English, Fisher, CurNo, and Heaney all decided to not hit 100 points. So, all of it coincided to a very shit score. But I actually think my team still looks okay. So I felt I watched this game pretty closely. Marshall actually looked great. He had a really good game. A really good game. It didn't reflect on his SuperCoach score. He still scored well, but the way he was playing on game day, I thought that was going to be at least 130 score, but instead he scored 111, so kind of weird there. Fisher's score was interrupted because of an injury. We will discuss that in a moment as well. Houston. I forgot to mention Houston's a lovely 59. Fantastic there. Ridley has been amazing for the 2 weeks that I've owned him. So for the first 2 weeks that I've owned him, he has decided to reward me with an 84 and a 63 and dump 11k in value. Thanks, Ridley. You've entered the never again territory. I will probably never, I say probably because I'm pretty sure I said this last year, ever pick Ridley again. Also, I'm highly considering never picking Dacos as my captain again, as I've only captained him twice this year, and he has scored my 2 lowest SuperCoach scores of the year. Incredibly frustrating, but it is what it is. I will stop complaining about my amazing team in a moment. I promise you, and we will move on to injuries. Now, we've had quite a few injuries quite a few injury updates, because I've actually recorded this after injury news was released on the AFL website, so we can actually talk about this. And I think as the year progresses, this is something I'm going to continue doing, because now that we don't have any more Thursday night games, I don't have to record so early in the week. I can actually record later in the week, just after injury news is released, and it gives you something to talk, something to think about as well, because there's quite a bit of injury news, to come. So, Zach Fisher has been ruled as a test. So he had it was some sort of foot soreness. It looks to be similar to Colby McKercher's, but we don't know how long he's going to be out for. He could be out for a week. He could be out for 2 weeks. He could be out for the year. We actually don't know. So right now, here's a test. If he's not named, I know a lot of people are talking about who to bring in. Rankin is the best option. Rankin's just the best option in my book. But if you can afford the 2K, which most of us I assume can, Jai Caldwell isn't a bad option either. And I assume that's why 4,150 coaches have brought in Jai Caldwell. But we will discuss Jai Caldwell in a moment as well. Nick Caulfield has had a successful return through the VFL and is actually a chance to play this week. He's no longer on the injury list. He's come back through the VFL. And Tyler Dray, the Hawthorn Premiership player now with the Dogs, is listed as a test. So if he misses, Nick Caulfield could play his 3rd game of the year and could reward people that have held him, like myself, with that 3rd game. So it'd be great to see a score on my bench, considering I haven't actually had a score on my defensive bench since round 2. So Nick Caulfield was actually the last person to score any points on my defensive bench this year. Which would be great to see someone actually give me something. I really don't want to get rid of Zach Fisher, by the way, and I will talk about that in a moment as well. But, screw it, I'll talk about it now. Zach Fisher, I'm tempted to hold him. I'm tempted to hold him because we're running out of trades. And I'm assuming a lot of people are in the same boat. We're running out of trades. If he's gone for a week, or even 2 weeks, I don't mind the hold, because he is a top 4 forward. He just is. Caldwell might not be a top 6 forward. Yes, he's playing good football. Yes, he's scoring really well, but Parrish is listed as a 3-week away player. Now, Setterfield is playing VFL. Hobbs is playing VFL. Shield is playing VFL. So I don't think those guys are going to affect him. But Parrish comes back into the team, and that could take away from some of Caldwell's points. Well, I feel like Rankin is just going to be scoring what he's scoring every week. So I think that he's a better pick if you can afford him. But Fisher also covers our back line when he's playing, of course. You can substitute him with Will Dawson. That was the whole point of that pick. And Dawson actually is a 1 week away, by the way. He's listed as a 1 week away, which means he could come back within the next fortnight. So we could be getting Dawson and Fisher back within a week if Fisher misses 1 week. I personally, if you've got the cover, just hold him for a week. I think that he's worth more. He's worth more than just trading him or flicking him away because of a potential injury. If we've kept Colby McKercher for so long, then why not keep Fisher? Now, the next one I want to talk about is Colby McKercher. Could be back this week. So for those who have held him on your bench as that, what is it? He was an M9D7. I do like it. We could be rewarded with him coming back, especially if Zach Fisher does miss 1 week. Tom De Koning is listed as a test, so for those who brought him in last week and have had to hold him, he might be back this week. Pitnet didn't have a great game, so he could be dropped potentially. James Sicily is listed as a test as well from his shoulder soreness. So hopefully he comes back in. Will Dawson I've already mentioned. Wardlaw is listed as a 1 weeker, so if you have held him after bringing him in, you can hold on to him for 1 more week because he should be back next week. Callum Mills could potentially return in the VFL this week. I doubt he comes straight back into the AFL side, considering Sydney is actually playing good football. So he most likely will be returning through the VFL. So that's a player to watch. That is definitely a player to watch. If you're low on cash and you need to finish your side, or even if you're thinking about an M9, I don't mind a Callum Mills. There's only 490k. Yeah, he's a midfielder. There's only 490k. So do keep an eye out on him. Josh Dacos is listed as a test. Bo McCreary is listed as 4 to 6 weeks. Now, McCreary isn't really SuperCoach relevant, but the player who is SuperCoach relevant is Joe Richards, who was the starting sub. So McCreary and Richards play in a similar forward role. So because McCreary is out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, I assume Richards, who actually made a pretty decent impact when he came onto the ground, might take that position on the field, and we won't get any more 36s. We know what Joe Richards can do. And what's his break even? His break even's still a 5, so he's still got another 30k to make easily. Maybe 30 to 50k left in him. I know I've got Joe Richards on my field still because I wasn't able to complete my side. All my rookies this year have gotten injured. As I mentioned, my backline, I had all of Gibcus, Caulfield, Will Dawson. I brought him in for his 1 week 0. I had, what's his name, Zach Reed. I've had Manor all year. I brought in Richards the week that he got injured. You know, it's just been a shit show of injuries upon injuries on my bench, which has really stunted my cash generation. I've still got trades left, so I plan on making these changes soon. It just means that I have to just wait until guys like Dowling and Richards make a little bit more money, just that little bit more money, and then I can trade them away and finish that, you know, F6 position, and I'm kind of hoping that I can afford a Rankin eventually, because that's the guy that I want in the end of the day. Brennan Cox returns for Fremantle this week, so that could assist in a Luke Ryan potentially, as he plays even more loose than he already is. Josh Kelly's a 4 to 6 week injury away, so if you've got someone from GWS who's not playing on your bench, that could help. Jake Melkson is available to play after 300 days this week. I know that he's not greatly SuperCoach relevant, but if you're really, really scraping the barrel, because Petrarca's out. Petrarca's done for the year. Melkson is only, 245k? Now, luckily, we get to watch him play for 2 weeks before he has any price rises, so we can actually see these scores, but keep an eye out on him, because he could be the guy that we bring in as an F6 or F7 if you want. Because, like, a Joe Richards, like, you can actually bank $1,400 by going Richards to Melksham. Which I don't hate. I really don't hate this. Oh, I really don't hate this. Can I afford him? I've got 54k in the bank. 54k. No, I can't. But I could do it soon. Alright? So I'm going to probably look out on Melksham. I'm going to keep an eye out him for the next 2 weeks. If he starts playing midfield and scoring okay, I don't mind it. I mean, look, I was going to get into this a little bit later. You know, I'll get into it later because I want to talk about PODs later. So I'm going to get into it later. Dustin Martin's listed as a test if you've got him. I don't know why you would have. And Max King, the super potato that I owned at the start of the year as a cash grab, is out for the season with a PCL injury. Why I mention that is because he has been in disgusting form pretty much all year after his first 2 games. But it opens the doors for some St Kilda rookies. So who knows, there could be some decent players coming in. But it could also mean that someone like Marshall, someone like Marshall could share ruck duties. So that could hurt for owners like me. So let's see who St Kilda bring in. Now, we've got some rookies that we can use as trade downs still. Some guys are coming through. Now, the first one is Kynan Brown. I don't mind his basement price. He has been the sub, though, for his first 2 games. His break-even's, 23? And that is greater than what he's currently averaging. So that's not great. Yeah, that's not great. Okay, so, but look, he's got midfield forward status. So he's got DPP. He plays West Coast this week if he does play. He's scored a 15 and a 21 in his first 2 games because of the sub-affected games. But the thing is, when he actually plays, which he will do one day, he will get a game on the field. And when he does, his scores per minute are actually, his points per minute are actually pretty decent. So I don't mind it as your last, like, if you're doing your last trade downs and he is basement price with a DPP, I really don't mind it. But there are some other options as well. Lawson Humphreys has already had almost 15,000 coaches bring him in for Geelong. He's got defensive mid status. He's got a break even of 45. And he's $117,000. He's only played 1 game, and he scored a 91 against Essendon. So you could go early on a Lawson Humphreys if you're looking for a defensive mid. I mean, I don't hate it. I really don't hate it. Yeah, I don't hate it, but I don't know why you'd be looking for any more defensive mids. Like, personally, I mean, you could do it if you like. You know, if you've got, you know, a beefed up midfielder, you could do something like that to leverage your cash. I don't know much about him, to be honest, job security wise. So he's only played 1 game, so you can wait another week. You know, for me, he's not a desperate player that you must have. Personally, I think an Ari Schoenemaker is a better option. He's got a break-even of -71. He's the same price of 117k, but he's already played 2 games and has looked pretty good in both games. So I think that his job security is better. So if you're wanting someone on your bench to continue to play, just in case something happens, I prefer a Schoenemaker. I know that he doesn't have the DPP, but he's probably got better job security. The other one is Logan Evans from Port Adelaide. He's got a -61 break, even his basement price of 102k. He's also played 2 games. 68 and 52, hasn't been scoring as well as Schoenemaker, but he has looked good at AFL level. He's actually looked good AFL-wise. Hasn't really reflected that as a SuperCoach score, but has looked good. Look, to be honest, his job security is not great either. If you're looking for someone that you can guarantee would play out most of the year moving forward, and Ari Schoenemaker definitely is a better option. But I understand why you would pick a Lawson Humphreys, as he does allow for DPP rotation for people like Dacos or Sinclair or Martin or Holmes, those sort of players. So I do get it. I do get it, why you would pick him. I just think that his job security is a bit meh. So don't be surprised if he's not even named this week, though he did have a really good game on the weekend. I also want to mention Blight. Now, not many people are talking about Blight, but he had a really good game. Defensively, I don't know what is it with defenders. All of the rookies, we've been crying out all season for rookie defenders that aren't injured. We have literally been crying all year for these guys, and they all come after the buys. They all come after the fucking buys. Of course they do. Fuck. Stupid. Anyway, he only scored a 50. He is an intercepting defender. He is really good at being an intercepting defender. Actually did a good job against CurNo, which was frustrating for a CurNo owner. He's 102k. He only played one game. Richmond's team's depleted. They're going to be playing their younger players for the rest of the year. We're not going to be winning many games as a Tigers fan. I just know it. And I can see Blight playing out the rest of the year. I really think that his job security is decent. He played 2 really solid VFL games before coming into the AFL side. After being a mid-season recruit. I really like this guy. I personally think Blight's job security is better than Lawson Humphreys and Logan Evans. And if you really want that basement price defender, then he's probably a better shout than Ari Schonemaker if it means, that you're going to be short 10k or 15k. Like, that's 15k. You can do a lot with 15k at this time of year. So, if you're tossing up between a Rankin or a Caldwell, for example, because you're just shy of Rankin, and you're thinking of bringing in Ari Schonemaker or a Lawson Humphreys, maybe bring in Blight instead. Cool. The other one is Caulfield. I mentioned him earlier. Yes, we all know who Caulfield is. Nick Caulfield has averaged 79 in a season before. He's come back. He's successfully through the VFL. He doesn't have the little injury symbol on the top right-hand side next to his name anymore, which is great. He's already played 2 games, so he might actually go up in value too, so I don't mind it. This guy can play good football. He was a first-round draft pick back in the day, for St Kilda. Hopefully he's back this week in the AFL side, and hopefully he gets games, and hopefully he stays the rest of the year in the AFL team. And could act as a little bit of a defensive backup. Now, Hutchison is someone that we've all forgotten about because we all jumped early on him. He's, what is he in, 32% of teams? 7, where is he? How many teams is he in? He's in 5% of teams. So 5% of teams, he's got a break-even of 13. He's already played 2 games and has scored a 40 and a 6 because they have been sub-affected games. Not the best trade-in option, but he is basement price, and if you do need to bring in a forward rookie, if he's named, I don't hate it. I really don't hate it. I do prefer Keenan Brown, though, because, well, you've got that forward midfield DPP, so I prefer the Keenan Brown. But, if you've already got Brown, I don't hate Hutchinson if he's named. I wouldn't be bringing him in if he's not named. Now, DPPs, these are the guys, and Primo, sorry, not DPPs, Primo and PODs, these are the guys that I'm looking at to maybe increase your ranking. Now, I'm just going to add someone because I actually forgot to add him. Now, this is I did mention him earlier, and this is Melksham. Now, why am I talking about a guy that, let's be honest, is probably on the fringe of Melbourne's best 22, and also someone who famously was told by Stephen May that they wouldn't have won the flag if Melksham was in the team. Now, the reason I'm bringing him up is because he's actually a guy that can score decent. Did play a few games late in last year. Sorry, just taking a sip of water there. Wow. Now, Melbourne actually have a decent run home, and let's take a look. 2023, what was his scoring like? It wasn't amazing, but he did score a 91 against Hawthorn and an 82 against Brisbane. So he can actually pack a punch when he does play. 2022, he finished the year strong with 114 against the Blues and a 81 against Brisbane. So again, he can do it. Now, in the past, when he plays a midfield role, he has averaged... I'm just going to see... Where is it? God, this is going back. He's averaged 73.8 in 2018. Gross. This is all falling apart as I continue to speak. But no. He averaged a 74.8 in 2013. There you go. 2013. Wow. Yeah, it really hasn't averaged very high. But he is prone for those spike games, especially when he is given a midfield role, and he can score some goals too. Now, as I mentioned, last year he did finish with some decent scores. I mean, he did score an 82 and a 91. I know that these are not amazing scores, but if you're shopping around for a budget and you've got that luxury trade, as I said, he's 245k with Petrarca injured and Oliver. Look, he played okay over the weekend, but he still looks unfit. You know, Pickett looked amazing over the weekend, but they really do like him up forward. If Melksham comes in and starts to get some midfield time, I don't hate this pick. I really don't. And especially if you're looking for, you know, someone that is playing and you have your team completed and now you're looking for someone on your bench. If Melksham's named, watch him for the next week or two, because he's not going to change price for 2 weeks. So you can watch him for the next week or two. You know, imagine he comes in. Imagine you cop an injury in your SuperCoach Grand Final and you picked Melksham on your bench and now you have to play Melksham and Melksham scores a 90 and then you win your SuperCoach matchup by 20 points. You know what I mean? You're going to be talking about your Melksham pick to that opponent. You're not going to be talking about anyone else. Bontempelli could have been your captain and scored 157 for you. It doesn't matter, because Melksham's going to be the one that you brag to your opponent about, because you're the one that brought him in when no one else owned him and he scored a 90 for you. I remember I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. I had a defender get injured. One of my primo defenders get injured. He played all season for me, but he didn't play my grand final. Very upsetting. He got injured for the last game, and I had to bring someone in. And I brought in Ben Stratton as my last trade down. So Stratton was like 140k or something stupid. He was so stupidly cheap. And he was captain, I think, of Hawthorn at the time. And I brought him in as my last trade down option as I was making my last primo trade in just after the buys had ended. And it allowed me to get my primo, great, fantastic. And it meant that I had Stratton score 30s every week on my bench. But, you know, 30's better than 0. Come the grand final, I now had to put Stratton on my field because... well, I am in trouble. I didn't have anyone playing at D8. He was my only playing player, and I thought, you know what, a 35 is probably better than a 0. So I put him on my field just to see. The guy played forward for the day because it was his last AFL game and scored a goal or 2 for the game as well. I scored a 70-something, and I only won my matchup by... I'm pretty sure it was like 10 or 15 points. That's why I use that example, because I only just won that matchup. And it was purely... and you know what? I don't care that my captain for the day... I'm pretty sure my captain was something like Simpkin back then. It was in his breakout year and he had a really good vice-captain score and I ended up taking it. And scored like 160 odd. It was like 164 and my opponent's captains got injured at half-time, so... he didn't score great. I mean, there were a lot of good things that went right for me and things that didn't go right for my opponent. But Stratton is the one that won the game for me. And I stand by it because, and you know what? He hates it. And I know him personally. And I still remind him of this grand final win all the time because he was beaten by Ben Stratton. Jake Melksham can be your Ben Stratton. By the way, I've actually brought in Jake Melksham this week as my for my draft league. Just to have him on my bench, just to see what happens. Because, you know, if he turns out to be someone that does score a few 80s as the year rolls out, I wouldn't mind it on my field. I'm going to stop talking about Jake Melksham. Sorry, guys. The other one I want to bring up is Cripps. Now, this is someone that I was Patrick Cripps was someone I was heavily considering. But I decided to go with Ridley. Fuck, this has been an infuriating year. His break-even 65 and his 538k, so you can still pick him up. He has come off on a massive 144-point score against Richmond, 40 disposals and 1 goal. And also came back off a 99 against Geelong, since I have been talking about him. Has an amazing record coming up. He's got the Giants, the Bulldogs, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, Collingwood, Hawthorn, St Kilda, West Coast. Only 2 of those teams actually tag. So guess what? It means he could average 110 easy for the remainder of the year and be a solid scorer. Why did I pick Ridley? I don't know. Probably because I'm an idiot. I would very much prefer to have Cripps in my team over Matt Rowell. Ooh. Could I do that? Could I do that? Oh my god. Do I just... Oh my god. I have just realised I could bring in Patrick Cripps and completely fuck my year up. I could bring in Cripps for Matt Rowell. Okay? And have absolutely no forward line for the rest of the year. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to accept that this year is over for me. And I'll see how far I can get. Somehow every 50-50 trade that I have made this year has gone the wrong way. So tossing up between Ridley and Cripps, and I'm picking Ridley. Poor decision. Tossing up between... oh man, what was the other... There were quite a few 50-50 calls that I made. Oh, English and Gawn. Great. Marshall and Meek. Great. Sorry, it was Marshall and Cherry. Fantastic there. There were a few. I'm going to do a reflection at the end of the year to talk about, what went right, what went wrong, but not just me, but on a scale of things. I've listened to a lot of other podcasters, kind of what went right for all of us, and how we should probably move into next year, especially with, if there is another round 0, what my strategy will be next year. I've learned a lot, so I'm going to really be taking next year differently compared to this year. Now, Patrick Cripps is someone that I'm seriously considering. They are, or at least I would be considering if I had the luxury trade. He's the type of player that can go huge, as we have seen. He's also the type of guy that I don't hate. You know what I could do? I could dump Ridley. Could dump Ridley instead, right? Or I've got even more money if I dump Ridley, and I get I move a Sinclair to defense, and I bring in a Patrick Cripps. That gives me more money. I don't hate this. I really don't hate this. Oof. 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 I like it. But I also don't, because I've only got 3 trades left. So I'm not going to do that. That's okay. Now, Jai Caldwell. Now, a lot of people are talking about Jai Caldwell, and I don't mind it. He's got midfield forward status. He has a break-even of 47, and he's 505k. This is the week to jump on him if you are going to do it. I know a lot of people are bringing him in as their Fisher replacement. Now, I just want to rattle out his last few games. So since round 9... has gone, so he had a 58 in round 9 against, round 8 against West Coast. So since round 9, he's actually gone 90, 103, 80, 88, 94, 115, 127. The guy is a really good player. He is a really good player, and he's surprisingly had a really good start to the year too. We did mention him on the podcast, I think it was around round 4. And I was considering him, but then I decided not to go with him. I think I brought in... Who did I bring in instead? I think I went with Zorko instead, which hasn't been a bad trade, but in hindsight, Caldwell was significantly cheaper. So Caldwell he's got a good run coming up for the rest of the year. he is playing predominantly midfield, and it's great for owners. He's scoring great, but I am worried about the Parish addition. You know, Parish should come in and really take away from Caldwell's CBAs, which could reduce his scoring. But that just, to be honest, that just means instead of scoring 100 plus, he might finish the year averaging in the 80s, which is not terrible for your F6 anyway. He's got DPP. I don't hate it. I actually don't hate it. If he was cheaper, if he was 50k cheaper, I would definitely have picked him last week ahead of CurNo. Like, what was he last week? I'm pretty sure I couldn't afford him. I don't think I could have. Yeah, he was 476k. So I went with CurNo instead because I couldn't afford Caldwell. Oh no, I could have afforded Caldwell. Why did I pick CurNo? Anyway, oh well. Anyway, I picked CurNo instead of Caldwell. That was a dumb mistake. There we go. We can add that one to the list. But Caldwell is a good option, and I don't mind him. I just don't have the money to bring him in this week. So for those people that do have that luxury and can bring in a Caldwell this week, great. I'm all up for it. I think that it's a great move, and you should probably do it, but only as that F6. I still prefer a Rankin. If you can afford a Rankin, his role is definitely there for the rest of the year, while Caldwell could be pushed out of that midfield for someone like Parish. Speaking of Isaac Rankin, I still think that he's the best forward pick for the year. He's definitely the F5? Yeah, he'd be the F5 for the year. He's looking great. He's got a break-even 114k. He's $578,000. Has a really good record against Brisbane, scoring 142 and 117 in his last 2 games against the Lions. So, just saying, probably pick him up. If you can, in his last 4 games, he's gone 142, 125, 96, 121. So he is in good form. The only caveat is he plays the Swans in the last game of the year, and they do tend to tag, but scored a 96 against them in their last encounter 2 weeks ago. So I don't hate that. I think that he will be a really good scorer for the year. I started Rankin, and I traded him out just before his round 5 121 score against Carlton when he played midfield for the first time, scoring, playing forward for the first few games of the year and not really having the role I thought he would have had. I gave him 4 weeks. In hindsight, it's annoying that it didn't work out for me, but I gave him a month, and it didn't look like he was going to have that role that we thought he was going to have in the preseason. And then literally the week that we have him out, literally the week that I trade him out, is the week he suddenly has that role. So that was fun to then watch him go absolutely bananas for the rest of the year. Hasn't dropped below 85 since that role had changed, just so you know. So the floor is there and the ceiling is 142, which means that he is the best forward target behind, the big 4. I'm going to say the big 4 of Flanders, Heaney, Zorko, Fisher. He is the best player to bring. And he's probably better than Fisher. Just saying. He's probably better than Fisher. He's probably the F4. To be honest, and I still really do want Rankin. I just don't know how I'm going to get him. I just don't know how I'm going to get him. I don't think I can, but I would love to have him in my team somehow magically. And that's it. That's really it. They're the guys that we should really be looking at to replace the injured players that we may have. They're the guys that you can use to get ahead of your opponents. Thank you for listening. I'll be back same time, same place next week. Please make sure to subscribe, like us on all our socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, as I'm constantly posting throughout the week, and match day updates as well, except for when I'm at a wedding, apparently. And that's it. Thank you for listening. I'll be back same time, same place next week.